Anyway, here we are, folks.
Hello.
Rachel, Mia, Alan.
Oh,
Hooray!
hello.
In a lovely studio. I'll give you a shot of this in a moment, as always. Very nice place. Thanks for inviting us along.
Very welcome.
I want to go to your background in a minute, but I know we were just talking before the camera started up about colours and palettes and things like that. And I know you've been through a bit of a transition in the last year or two where you've had some time sort of out to rethink and where you are and everything else. And we were talking about palettes and how palettes, you seem to be in a different palette playing around. Give me an insight into that a little more, about what palettes are all about and what you feel about the palettes and things at the moment.
Well, I mean, you know, to give you an instance, I went down to the beach quite late the other evening, and it was dusk, and the sea was like bitter lemon colour.
Right.
And I literally just felt it hit my heart.
Right.
That was the only thing I could describe it. And I thought, I'm never going to get a shot of that with a camera, really.
Right.
You know, I tried and it got kind of a bit of a fuzzy.
Yeah.
But I felt it here.
Right.
And that was the difference. And so, you know, I've painted since then off that emotional response.
Right.
And I have felt drawn to that sort of similar palette of colours. Not quite, you know, there's been another day down at Chapel. I've been drawn to that beach though, so there may be something there energetically, but I do feel drawn to that place at the moment.
And when you say the palettes you're using are different, in that they're darker or lighter?
Yes, they are darker. I mean, that one was particularly dramatic, but the colours that have been coming off it since have been sort of lilacs and soft greys, and there's definitely been sort of some bright blues in there as well, but it's been slightly softer.
And you mix the inks with the oils?
No.
So you only
it's
use
printing
one.
ink.
Right.
So exactly what printers use, that's what I use. It is an unusual medium to work with, but it's quite expensive. It can be a bit noxious to work with, but it was just, when I got a roller in my hands, when I was at Falmouth, I felt like I'd come home.
Right.
I can paint with a brush, and I'm not, you know, I'm okay. But when I get a roller, it just seems to make sense. Now, of course, as time's gone on, you know, I've got more proficient, and I find different ways of mixing my colour, so I don't just use the rollers now. But I, you know, favour credit cards and stuff. I find that's a very useful way of using credit cards. Actually, much more rewarding.
Better than sticking a hole in the wall.
Absolutely, yeah, much more rewarding. So you know, I find different ways of making marks, and I haven't really got anybody to refer to on that, but that's quite like that's me. That's the type of person that I am. I like to do something a little bit different.
Right. So take me back to college and where it all started, and the day that you discovered inks and everything.
Well, just before that, being at school, because there may be people that identify with this a little bit. When I was at school, I couldn't think about anything other than horses. It's all I drew. You could put me out in the garden and say, we're going to draw this today, and I would draw a horse, and that's just how it was. And my art teacher just said to me, you know, give it up. You just can't do this. And I don't know where this seed got planted. I don't remember ever meeting anybody, but I had to go to Falmouth. It was like, I didn't know what was it. I didn't even know the course. It was just like, I've got to go to Falmouth. I couldn't, like I said, I can't tell you where that came from. I went for the interview, and there was, I forget the lady's name now, but Mike O'Donnell was one of the guys that interviewed me. She really didn't like my work. Right. He really did. Okay. And that was it. And that was it. So I got in, and I flourished. I absolutely loved it. That's it. I got going, and I really got into the erotic art, and that was phenomenal, you know. Yeah. And again, I didn't seem fazed by anybody's thoughts about that. I was really supported, and that was very helpful. And perhaps that helped me being that bit different, because, you know, not that I was sort of, these aren't shocking in any way, but it was just that it's all right to go your own way, right? You know, and I felt quite comfortable.
And you were being encouraged.
I was being encouraged all the time.
Right.
But the first day in the print room, I do remember it really well. There was just a load of ink on the table. He just said, you know, get your ink out on the table, anything you're drawn to doing. And we'd been to, I don't know whether it was a college trip. I don't think it was. I think I'd gone up to a boyfriend then we'd gone to Wells Cathedral. And I took photographs of it up there, and I was just completely blown away by the shapes. And those kind of shapes, they just stuck in my head somehow. The arches and the layers, you know, the distance and all the steps, because they've got those crazy steps going up there that have been worn. So that really struck a chord for me. And I started to do these arches with it, and I thought, hey, this works really well. And you've got quite a lot of control with the roller, you know, right. Just sort of felt, everything just felt right. And so that was my kind of initial introduction to ink. Right. And I never really wanted to come away from it. You know, that was it, once I was going.
And how did you manage to start now using it to get the images that you want to be able to go outside?
Well,
I didn't have a lot of training, wasn't it?
No, I did nothing like that there.
Right.
That didn't happen there.
So it was mainly abstracts and things like that?
It was quite a lot of abstracts. And of course at that stage, although when we were in the print room we were encouraged to print outside of it, they wanted us, if you were in fashion or if you were in, because I was doing a general art and design, you know, you were encouraged to work within the discipline and the mediums that were appropriate to what you were doing. So life drawing wouldn't necessarily, I couldn't just I could take it to the print room and do something with it in that time, yeah. But I couldn't take the print room to you. So, and that was okay, and I never thought too much about it, but I knew that that was one of my favourite things when I was working with the ink, that I really liked it. And I liked sculpture as well, you know, I enjoyed that, but the printing thing was the main thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was talk of, right, what university are you going to? And I thought, well, I never even thought about going to university. It just hadn't entered my head. So I just thought, well, okay, put my name down, you know, fudge a few details on the whatever, and we'll just go to it. And I went and did the interview, and I got a place. And I was really, really fortunate, but I just didn't value my place up there.
Right.
I met somebody at the time and just thought, not really into this right now, and so didn't paint for about, well, it was years and years and years. Really long time.
You came back then to Cornwall?
Came back to Cornwall, then went back to the pub and just worked with mum and dad.
Yeah.
And was completely out of the creative loop, to be honest.
So what was the thing that brought you back into it? What was the thing? Okay, his encouragement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was absolutely the driving force behind it.
This must have been the end of...
It was 98,
98
yeah, kind of around that time, end of the 90s. Yeah. And yeah, he was just an absolute star. And I started making cards for people, but they were entirely different from what I'm doing now. And that just kind of took off, you know, like it does, and people started asking, and then I put them in a few galleries, and that was quite nice, and still working at the pub, but that creative flow was beginning to come back.
Yeah.
And then one day I just got invited by a gallery, Judy Emanuel, and she said, you know, we've got 5 girls doing a show, how do you feel about doing some proper painting for it? Yeah. I think my response probably was no, if I remember rightly. And I came home and Craig just said, go for it, just do it.
Yeah.
I think by this time we had this place, in fact I'm certain we did, and I painted on the floor.
Okay.
I remember sticking stuff to the floor because I didn't have a table in here then. I just had a piece of glass on the floor and just kind of, and trying to heat the inks up, because it was all new to me. I didn't, being out of the loop with the printing so long, and so I didn't know a lot about it. I didn't know what you could do and what you couldn't do with it, and that wasn't a bad thing actually. No, sure. I didn't have too many limitations with it, and that show did phenomenally well. They were very naive, but in a sea of blue down in St Ives, there were these vivid green paintings that you couldn't walk past without, whether you liked them or not, they just jumped out at you. And so they got a lot of attention. Yeah. And I didn't really look back. And I think within, probably before 2 years, I gave up work and started full time. Right. And I just was with the right people at the right time. Yeah. And they were so supportive, and it was fab. Okay.
So, the future, I know you've had a couple of years where you've sort of lost your way a little bit, or gone through some sort of spiritual
definitely
move. But you're now back into it, you're now starting to kick again, you're starting to feel good. Is there any big changes that you feel on the horizon, or you're just sort of going to glide with it? Because I know your love of horses.
Yeah, my love of horses is right in there, and I do often get asked to draw them, and I don't know really why I'm holding myself back from that, because I think that would be, you know, something amazing to explore. And even if I wasn't painting, if I started doing that kind of work, the other would never go away, but it would probably bring something to that as well. Right. You know, we tend to avoid the things that we need the most in our life. So if I'm avoiding it, it's probably got something fairly large for me there.
There's probably a bit of fear too that if you you blending the two things you love together and it doesn't quite work, whether it may hurt or not.
Perhaps it's a bit of blank canvas syndrome, you know, you just get that sort of white sheet of paper.
Yeah.
It will come at the right time, and I
Right.
trust that it will come at the right
Yeah.
time. The main thing is that the love of the painting, or the areas that I'm in, is back, because that kind of just went for a little while for whatever reason. I had a lot of personal stuff that was shifting, and it feels a lot more settled in me now, and I don't feel so frightened about trying new things.
Right.
You know, so perhaps maybe the horse thing will come, but the sculpture thing, I would like that to just slowly filter in, because I really enjoy that aspect as well. Okay. So it's just exploring as many different things, you know, in that way. Well,
selfishly, I love that idea, and we're open to taking
really
stuff in.
So see where it goes. Yeah,
great.
For sure.
Well, thanks very much for now.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Rachael and Alan.
Thank you.